Okay, we are now live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Licence Subcommittee hearing for Monday, 9th of September at 2 p.m. We're all being watched live on the Council YouTube channel. You will be seen, but you'll only be heard if you toggle on and toggle off on your microphone. So when you do speak, please toggle on and toggle off. Some housekeeping before we start. Fire alarm. I'm not expecting any fire alarms, so if it does go off, it's the real thing. Please leave the way you entered or to my right, and we meet outside the Miller's Tap, which is rather apt for a licensing hearing. You've heard me say that a few times. Mobile phones, please switch them off. Any other devices that you have. Right, let me introduce myself. I'm Councillor Roy Chamdell. I'm the chairman of the committee. Helping me make the decisions will be Councillor Lynn Allen and Councillor Brian Stead. We have other officers here. We have Kerry Munro from Legal to ensure all our decisions that we make are legal and just. And we have Neil Fraser from Democratic Services who will be taking minutes and ensuring I follow process. We have other officers here. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then obviously the applicant as well. Toggle and toggle off. Thank you.
Stephen Dormer, Licensing Officer, Hillingdon Council.
Thank you.
David Hart, Area Manager, JD Wetherspoons.
Meeting is in public, not a public meeting. Everything is in part one, and we can move on to the agenda. Any apologies for absence?
No chairman or members are present.
Any declarations of interest in matters came before the meeting? No interest. I said it's part one, right? Matters. Any matters that have been notified in advance or urgent?
No chairman.
Okay, we have a addendum sheet. Has everybody got the addendum sheet? Have you got it, sir? Right. Okay then. Right, we can start. Stephen.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Chairman. You've all had the report and the bundle and are familiar with the salient points of this application. May I take this opportunity to provide a verbal summary of the application and assist the subcommittee to determine the outcome of this application. Under the delegated powers set out in Hillingdon Council's policy for gambling, this type of application for more than 5 gaming machines is determined by this subcommittee, which is why we are here today. The application is for an additional 2 machines, which will bring the total of gaming machines at this premises to 7 machines. Please allow me to supply a verbal description as to the points of where the machines will be located. The existing 3 Cat C machines are located next to the bar area. However, the sight lines are very difficult for staff who are actually serving behind the bar to actually see and manage those properly and to ensure that minors aren't using the machines. The other 2 Cat machines which are in the premises at this moment in time are in the sight of the bar area, and they're a much better place for them to be seen by and policed by staff working at the premises. And in the addendum, I believe that is the third photograph of the premises, which shows the 2 machines on their own there. The committee may be minded to have considerations to the following matters. And this one is in relation to the Licensing Act 2003 and the conditions on the premises licence, which I believe there is a summary in the main bundle, does outline these conditions. Children under 16 should only be permitted access when accompanied by an adult between the hours of 0700 and 2200 hours, unless consuming a meal where they will have access to the premises until 22:30 hours. And it does say no adult entertainment or services, activities, other entertainment or matters ancillary to the use of the premises that may give a rise or concern in respect of children shall be provided. Whilst we're not here to determine in Licensing Act 2003 matters, however, the committee may wish to be minded that granting one permission under the Gambling Act 2005 legislation may have a potential negative impact on another licence issued under a different set of legislation powers. The application is given the opportunity, in addition to the information provided with the application, to satisfy the authority on how the objectives are going to be met with the additional machines being installed. The objectives being A, preventing gambling from being a source of crime and or disorder, being associated with crime or disorder, or being used to support crime. B, ensuring that gambling is conducted in a fair and open way. And C, protection of children and other vulnerable persons from being harmed or exploited by gambling. The licensing authority have not yet received any intelligence regarding this particular premises and gaming machines being a source of organised crime. However, it is worth noting that in Hayes area there is currently a bet watch scheme which its aims to reduce antisocial behaviour and low-level crime emanating from betting premises. Whilst this is not a betting premises, the mere presence of 7 machines has the potential to attract similar problems to the betting shops in the near vicinity. The committee may wish to seek assurances with the applicant's representative as to what physical and non-physical measures to prevent underage gambling and any nuisance customers that may be attracted to the premises as a result in the increase of the gaming machines offered at the Botwell Inn. This concludes my evidence.
Thank you, Mr. Dormer. On page 4, just go for clarifications. Second paragraph down, you say that it's very difficult for staff to monitor them. Could you just expand a bit that? Are they monitored or not?
The only way that they seem to appear to be monitored when I've carried out a site visit is that if the bar staff are busy, or if the bar staff are maybe absent from the actual serving bar area, that the existing 3 machines that are positioned to the left of the bar, I believe, are not in plain sight of the bar serving customers, which is something I believe is quite prominent in what the policy dictates in Hillingdon.
Okay, you mentioned Betwatch. Does this current premises sign up to that as well?
No, they don't. It is aimed at the betting shops and the betting premises, but with the the fixed odds betting terminals coming out of the betting shops, and it seems to be that with
so that's just a no then, yeah. He's not signed up.
No, he's not.
Okay, right. Okay, that's enough. There's nothing here, any representation in terms of any incidents from ASB or any members' inquiries? Do we have any?
No, it's a negative on members' inquiries and the ASB team. We have checked.
Councillors, any clarification on what's been presented? No? Okay. Right. Mr. Hart.
Hello. Just to clarify the point the gentleman just made, the current location of the 3 machines that he's referring to.
Sorry, Mr. Hart, if I can just take you back to the process. The process is you make your submission here.
Right.
Then followed by that, we ask if there's any qualifications we're not sure about, we ask you.
Okay.
This is then followed by a discussion where we can then discuss what each others have said through me. And then that way, and then followed by closing remarks. It's all on the page. Okay? So if you just make your submission now, and then we can ask some questions. Thank you.
We currently have 5 gaming machines on the premises. The submission is for additional 2 gaming machines. Really to satisfy increased demand due to a redevelopment in the premises. We've put an extended garden at the back, and we've also invested in an upgrade of the front garden. And we have 2 existing machine positions that currently don't house machines. So the application is based around that. We have good visibility of those 2 locations that were previously used as machine housings, but we changed the use of those temporarily, and we'd like now to rehouse 2 more machines in those positions. So that would take our totality for 7 machines.
Had it? Great. Okay, so right, I'll kick off with a little bit of clarification. You just mentioned you got housing for 2 machines. How many machines have you had in total from the start?
5.
So these 2 housing are immaterial to. So if you had 5, just for clear my,
Yeah.
I didn't quite get what you said. You've got housing for 2 more machines,
Correct.
which are surplus to the additional 5, or were they? Just explain.
We repositioned the 5 machines into a different area of the pub, so that freed up those 2 positions and made them sort of empty of any machine.
So you created another space. You moved the machines across. So this
That's
is redundant from previous.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Are you a member of this BetWatch scheme, which is currently ongoing in this area?
No, we're not. We're members of PubWatch, not BetWatch.
So you said that it was because you're going to have increased customer base, because you're saying about having a garden and a rear garden opened up. So are you expecting more customers to come in terms of to play these machines?
Not so much to play the machines. It's ancillary to our base trade. So clearly we're a food and beverage operation working in that town. We have reinvested quite heavily in the garden and the front, and we are seeing a big increase in trade, clearly through nice weather.
Well, you said the right word, auxiliary to the main function. As you know, that in terms of the Gambling Commission, that's exactly why it should be there. I'm not quite clear on the connection between increased customer base and... So in terms of operating these machines, what's the age groups? Do you know what the age groups that play these machines?
Well, it's wide and varied, but we have a very strong over 21 policy on the machines. They're all labelled up as only over 21. So we have anyone from 21 to 70.
Councillor Allen.
Seek some clarification, please. You said you've recited the 5 machines.
Yes.
Did you notify the licensing department that you were changing where you had them? Because am I correct in saying when they were positioned, that was where the licence was granted, that you had them in that place?
To the best of my knowledge, you can move them within the sight lines and the supervision of the pub.
But if we're being told today those sight lines...
That was my point. Is my lads, can I address the point that I made initially?
No, if you just answer the question, that if it forms part of it.
Okay, so the 3 machines that we moved supervised. They're right next to the entrance to the kitchen. So there's people coming out of the kitchen every minute or so running food into the table. So anybody playing on those machines is supervised. So, and we also have a 5 team of managers in the pub. And so we have a manager on the floor, working on the floor all the time. Yes. Well, it's not. It doesn't have flowers and grass. Yeah. Sorry, we extended it to the whole frontage of the pub, whereas before it's just half. So we've extended the whole of the front aspect of the pub to be able to use as garden. We've increased the number of managers in the...
Chancellor, your microphone, because none of the questions are going to be heard, I just realised.
Have you, because you've created the garden at the front and the garden at the back, you know, to bring more customers in, have you more staff? And we are here because we're saying, can you have eyes on everywhere? Have you created more staff to cover?
We absolutely have had to do that, especially with the supervision to manage the licensing objectives in the garden. and also the increase in food trade that we've seen. We've had to recruit kitchen teams and also front of house teams, and also put another manager in to support the DPS who's there currently.
Right. Any more questions now? Councillor Stead.
Thank you, Chairman. Children at risk in this area, what precautions have you got to make sure that no children are allowed in near these betting machines?
We operate a Challenge 21 policy. All managers and staff members are trained online in order to recognise people who may be underage, and we are very, very strict on challenging that when people approach the bar, and also the people working on the floor are trained to recognise passing on drinks, and we're very strict on challenging that. So they may be in the pub and they may be challenged maybe twice or three times to see their identification.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've moved a little bit into a discussion stage as well. But we will now move formally into a discussion stage on what is being said and all the clarifications. Let me start. Could you explain how people gambling on the current machines at the moment, including the proposed, how they're going to be managed in terms of how is that area going to be supervised?
As you can see on the photo, there's two positions.
So which photo? I'm conscious.
Photo, sorry, with the gentleman.
I'm conscious that they're not being numbered.
Yeah.
So you have to be specific in terms of which photograph you're talking about. So this is in the addendum
First
pack.
photo on the second page.
Right. So this is an addendum pack where
That's
it
right.
shows some lights and a chappie sitting down with his face blacked out.
So the guy with the face blacked out is directly in front of the two new positions. That's where the two fruit machines will be housed, and it's good visibility from the bar area. And also, it's in the middle of the food area, so we'd have people walking around that area monitoring that all the time. So we serve food till 11 o'clock at night, and the food's always going out through that area. And then we have a manager on the floor walking around making sure that we're operating in a safe fashion. And the primary function is obviously food and drink. And we have these are very clearly marked up as 21 years old only, with signs being up.
So have you had any instance where members have pulled up people they suspect of not being over 21?
It's not a current problem in the pub. I mean, I run currently 14 pubs. We communicate to our teams regularly. The chief executive this week sent a note out saying be vigilant.
Yeah, sorry, the question was, have you had any incidents?
Not to my knowledge, no.
So you've had no incidents where any staff have pulled up anybody that they might suspect of being under the age of 21 whilst they're playing the machines?
I have no knowledge of that, no. I'm not saying that hasn't happened as course of a supervisory day, but I have no knowledge.
Once again, Mr. Hart, is what you present to us is what we agree on. So the question is, have you had any? The answer I've got is you haven't had none.
I haven't had any.
Okay. In terms of, you mentioned that you have a manager walking around. So what is his role primarily, please?
In Hayes, it's a process of managing customer behaviour, ensuring people aren't drinking too much alcohol, and really is making sure that we're compliant to the licensing objectives. And the key message here is that we ensure people aren't drinking too much alcohol in the premises, because it's very difficult if people do become inebriated. So,
sorry, I should be more specific. What's his role regards this application? Rather than, I understand the part about the alcohol, and good on him. It's a great thing to have. But in terms of this application that you're making for a gambling question, yeah. So what's his role there primarily?
It's to manage what's happening with the machines. We often have fraudulent behaviour on the machines, so they've always got an eye on the machines to make sure what's happening is in line with all of the objectives, really. And one of those is to make sure no underage users are using the machines, because we're very aware that the police, for example, will send in people underage to try and use the machines. So we're very conscious that we want to make sure that we're compliant, and that's one of the roles of the person on the floor.
So, 2 points on what you've just said. Sorry, councillors, if you let me just I know, Lynn, you're dying to get in. Give us 2 seconds. Right, you mentioned fraud on the machines was one. If you could just explain what that is. And two, you've also mentioned the police doing underage sort of testing, test purchase, something like that. If you could tell me how many times that's taken place.
So with the fraudulent use of the machines, we have, there's a lot of different methods that people use to try and fraudulate the machines with fake notes, things like that. So we work very closely with our machine suppliers, and we work on a system called Olga, and it alerts the pub when we believe there might be fraudulent activity on the pub, and the pub's alerted immediately via an email. So we can then, it's almost live time, so we can see if there's something going on that shouldn't be. We can then go and challenge that individual on the machine.
So just on that point, how many incidents happened in last month?
None.
3 months?
None.
None at all?
Because there's a reputation now that Wetherspoons has this technology, so I believe people steer away from our pubs because of that. I also receive an email when that's happening, and I can phone the pub directly.
Has the police come in and actually done any tests playing on the machine that you're aware of?
Not in the Botwell Inn.
So is there sort of a queue for people to play these machines at the moment? Because you've got 5, you're looking for a 40% uplift in terms of machines in the venue. So is there currently a queue of people waiting to play these machines that you are looking for a 40% uplift?
There's not a queue, I would say. Sometimes they're quite temperamental in terms of they break down quite a lot. But there's also a huge variety of machines that people like, so there's analogue and digital machines. And currently we have no analogue representation in the pub. Those are sort of the old-fashioned machines rather than the digital ones. So it would be my opinion that we could put 2 of the old-school machines in, which quite a lot of the older customers like to use.
Is that one with the handles, is it? Something like that. Well, I remember playing when I was little. Is the business plan to have 5 plus 2, or is it 5 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 as you grow more busier?
No, it absolutely isn't, because we do not want the pub to look like an arcade. It's our third source of income, and it's one we look at as a source of income. But I'm very conscious of the pub that has to maintain the look and feel of a pub and not become an arcade. And this pub's a very large space in the pub. It's a large square footage. And I believe there's space for 2 more machines, and that would then be it. I operate a pub that has 8, and I often take 1 or 2 out because it looks too gamey.
Okay. In terms of like what Mr. Dormer said about the area, has any been risk assessment been done regards the locality of the area and the clientele that you come in to play these machines?
We have a risk assessment based day by day, and we colour code that by risk, and it's more primarily focused around the Friday, Saturday, Thursday nights, and we use body cameras. The managers wear body cameras, and we have very clear policy about how we manage our customers front of house.
Okay, my final one before I go back to you. It's about your floor walkers. I'm still not quite clear. You mentioned that the machines are sited next to the kitchen and people coming in and out of the kitchen. So is their primary objective to make sure people get their steak and chips, whatever? I know you serve a lot of other foods as well. I do come on a Friday for bits and pieces. But is their primary objective not to get that food out as soon as possible to the clients, rather than see who's playing on these machines? Because surely if they stop to talk to somebody in the machines, somebody's food's going to get cold.
Well, we wouldn't ask the associates working on the floor to address that situation because it might put them in a difficult situation. They'd just alert the manager and say, it's my belief that someone's using the machine who's underage, and then the manager would then go over and address that.
So is it just this one individual that they can address, or is it people behind the bar? Because it's about how we manage it. This is why obviously the hearing is here, so for us to understand how this was managed. So at the moment, currently you have 3 and 2. If we go back to addendum sheet, we have 3 and 2 in close proximity to each other. So I can imagine, coming in and out of the kitchen, one can have a look. But now we've got another 2 now on the other side completely. So if they were coming to bring in food in, going out that way, going this way, this one is not monitored at all in any way, shape or form.
These 2 are very clearly in the view of the people working behind the bar. So we have a food area directly behind those 2 machines also. So, I mean, it's very closely supervised at all times, the whole pub now, because we have the beer garden round at the right-hand side. So there's a constant flow of 2, maybe 3 people at all times working on the floor because it's such a large area. So you can get sight lines from the bar and also from the floor.
So could you tell me in terms of numbers, how many staff previously and how many staff do you employ now and the hours that they work? The reason being, just understanding how many people are actually going to be out and about monitoring this area.
It varies from the level of trade on the shifts. On a Friday and Saturday night, we'd want 9 people working, 3 in the kitchen. On a Monday, we'd have 4. So there'd be 2/3 behind the bar and 1 on the floor.
Councillor Allen.
I'm going to take up all the questions. Can you tell me what your patron capacity is? How many residents?
It's around 550. That's off the top of my head, but I believe that's the case now with the extended garden.
Right. And you said 900, not in staff.
Sorry, that's just on one shift. We have currently in the pub 34 employees.
Or is that's in the kitchen?
Both in the kitchen, front of house.
Okay. Do you keep an incident book?
We have an incident book. We log. We call them accident and incident reports, and we log those when we have any sort of incident, whatever it might be.
Is that all of your staff can use that incident book, or just one?
It's not a book so much. It's an online reporting system. So
we have to go online to do it.
We have to go online to do it.
So you haven't got something that's quick that you can get in there and write it before it goes out of your memory?
Well, no, but we insist that they put it on the system within 48 hours of any incident happening.
Okay. Can you tell me when the last time police visited your establishment for any reason?
It would have been... Well, yes, so it would have been 3 weeks ago when we had an incident with a large group of customers, but it was nothing related to do with machines.
You might want to ask questions again because your microphone wasn't switched on again. Never mind, we'll have to... Did you? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Apologies. Any further questions? You mentioned a figure, was it customers you mentioned? I didn't quite get that. It's about 400 or 500. That's 500 customers a day, is it?
No, that's the capacity allowed with our fire risk assessment. But we wouldn't have that many in the
I'm
pub.
sure you've got the figures in your head. So, say on a Saturday evening, how many sort of what's the percentage sort of fill? How many numbers would you say?
Maybe 200 max.
So on a busy day, you got 200. You got 9 staff, 3 in the kitchen. So you'll have 6 people. That includes one on. Would that include the manager as well? Because you'll have people behind the bar.
Yeah.
So how many would that? The 3 kitchen staff that you said, are they all 3 coming out to give food, or there's some making the food? And I just want a clear number on how many people do we actually? Because I understand you made the point that they come out with food, but for me, the numbers, I'm not sure whether they stack up. So you've got 3 in the kitchen. So how many actually come out to take the food to the table?
No, none of the kitchen team come outside.
So, okay, that's 3 in the kitchen. They don't. So you've got 9 in total on a Friday, according to the figures that you said. Tell me if I'm wrong. So that leaves 6. So you got...
No, sorry. 9 front of house, 3 in the kitchen, so 11. 12,
so
sorry.
12. So you've got 9 in the front of house. So you have... How many would you have behind the bar?
About 6.
So you'd have 3, both taking food out and floor walking, should we say?
Clearing tables, correct, yeah.
Clearing tables, okay. And you feel that is an adequate number to be both doing the main trade, which is getting the glasses back, serving the drinks, whatever you do, and keeping an eye on these 5 machines that you have existing, plus there'll be enough for these additional 2 that you're going to have there.
I do, yes.
Can I just seek some clarification, please?
Of course you can, Councillor Allen.
Thank you. When I asked a question a few minutes ago, you said you had 34 staff in total.
Yes.
So can you tell me a breakdown of what those... You're telling us now that you've got 9 actually working inside the part of the pub where the residents are.
Yes.
Can you tell me what the role of the others are?
Well, we operate 7 days a week, so we operate on a ratio of 1 associate per £1,000 worth of sales. So, do you understand? So in total...
Yeah, no, when I said to you how many staff you got, I was referring to how many you had on any given one day, and you said 34, and I thought, wow.
I think the question Councillor Allen's asking if you could go through every single day, starting with Sunday, finishing with Saturday, how many staff do you have physically working front of house? I understand it's a long period of time,
yeah.
But you can understand why this question is very important for us.
Okay.
Is to ensure that the licensing objectives is met.
Yeah. So on a Monday morning, we would have 4. On a Monday night, we would have 5.
So Sunday?
A Monday. I started on Mondays.
Okay, Monday.
Yeah. Tuesday would be the same.
So was it 5?
5. Wednesday would be the same, 4 and 5. Thursday we would have 4 and 6. Friday we would have we'd have people coming in midway through the day, but for this purpose we'll just say morning and night. So we'd have 5 and 9. Saturday 5 and 9. And then Sunday we have 6 and 6.
So, you got in the 5 and 9, obviously it's split between 2 shifts, is it? So what's the hours?
Well, we open the doors at 8 a.m. in the morning. The machine licensing starts at 9, so we wouldn't switch the machines on till 9. And then, there's a variety of different shifts that we work. So the first person would come in at 6 to set the pub up ready for trade.
So, for example, on a Friday, you've got 9 stroke after. So when would that sort of 9 start? Would it be sort of late afternoon or...?
No. The last person coming in on Friday starts at 8 p.m. because they're going to be working right the way through till about 2 a.m. in the morning. So, what I'm trying to explain is that we wouldn't have the whole 9 people coming in at 6 because we wouldn't have the level of trade at that time.
Yeah, I get that. Again, my questioning is based on the license objectives for gambling to ensure that we can meet all 3. In terms of your clientele, children are allowed in the pub for food and drink?
Up until 9 o'clock.
Right, okay, so Daddy's, just an example, so Daddy's playing on the machine, and little Johnny, happens to be 7 or 8 years old, and he's pressing the buttons for him. How would that work within your organisation?
We wouldn't allow that to happen. We'd ask the adult to tell the child he cannot do that.
And once again, have you had any incidents reported of such?
Once at the Good Yarn in Uxbridge, we had an incident like that. Where
I mean in the Botwell.
No, not in the Botwell.
Because the question in terms of Councillor Allen asked is about your incident log. So this is an online that you give your staff a 48-hour window in which to record this. So
yeah.
If you just let me finish, and then we can get the question out, and then I'll have the complete answer. So if I'm correct in understanding, you have an incident log, but it's an online portal which gives a window of 48 hours on which a member of staff has to then log it. The question then will be, what if there's a repeat of somebody playing these machines who's, for lack of a word, dodgy, putting false notes in or whatever he's doing, or he looks underage? How does that actually work?
So the way we work our policies, they have 48 hours to log that information, and if they don't, then we would follow a disciplinary policy around that. 99% of the time it's put on the shift that it actually occurs. And fraudulent use of the machine primarily results in the venue losing money. So it's down to us really to manage that, because it's us that's getting ripped off in a way.
Right, you've just introduced something else. You said this is now logged onto a shift report. Now,
No, sorry, with it on the shift. So we would expect the manager on duty to log it on the actual shift that it occurred. So if it's a Monday morning, 99% of the time they log that immediately, but if they for some reason forget or they don't do it, they have a 48-hour window to do that.
Right, okay. So you've got an instant log, which is online portal. In addition to that, the manager concerned has to log it in a book or something, in a report that you said, or is that online as well? Because you emphasise that they'll be disciplined if they didn't log it. So what I'm saying is, I'm not quite sure how that works in terms of, we're very much used to an instant log being something physical, which if a responsible authority came onto the premises, they could see it straight away.
I might have explained it a little bit confusingly, because it's just one process.
I'm very simple, so yeah.
One process we use. The individual who's on duty at the time, the manager on duty, would log that on the portal. 99% of the time that's done on the day that it actually occurs. If they are a day off or they have to leave the premises for whatever reason, they have 48 hours as part of our policy to do that. It's one system that we use. I receive an email and it's also logged centrally.
Yeah, I get that. But again, once again, if a responsible authority turned up and said there was an incident in your pub, the manager involved, hasn't logged it, it's gone on holiday, how would that be recovered in terms of given to the responsible authorities in a reasonable manner of time?
Oh, sorry. The authorities often ask for CCTV footage, and they also they would have that documentation within 48 hours of the request anyway. And if it wasn't done, which is unlikely, they would document it in the duty manager logbook to hand over that information to the manager coming in next.
Councillor Allen.
You've asked my question again.
Which one was it?
The one about the instant book.
Yeah. Okay, that's your system. I'm beginning to understand it now. Not quite clearly how, this 48-hour window. I'm not sure how that works. Obviously, it must work for you guys, but I'm not quite sure on that. Right, you mentioned something about over 21s on the machine. Where is this displayed?
We have like a small sign stuck to the top of the machines.
Okay, if you go to our addendum sheet, if you look at the last photograph, I understand it's not been numbered, but the last one where it shows 2 machines, could you show us where this is?
I'm not sure when these photos were taken. It's something we've introduced in the last couple of months.
Mr. Dormer, could you help us on this?
These photographs were taken within the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Mr. Hart?
Well, if they were taken now, they would have I don't have a photo representation of it. An A5 message on the top saying 21 years and over.
So if
right on the top of the machine.
If you look at it like this, if you just show us a photograph, where would it be? So, where the top fascia where it says iPub.
That's right at the top there.
So, what you're saying is your machines would have had it on. Mr. Dormer, you're saying these pictures were taken, they're not dated or anything?
They were taken not long after we actually received the application. So there was two visits to the premises, one just after we got the application and one at the time when the report was being prepared. So within the sort of last 6 or 7 weeks.
I think it was early July. Is that right? Early July? That's on the date on the application's early July.
I did 2 visits, so I couldn't actually, right off the top of my head, tell you exactly when every photograph was taken. There was 2 sessions of going down and looking at the premises.
Okay, I think we can put a lid on that. Mr. Hart, page 20. If you go to page 20 of our report pack, just after the second paragraph down, all machines are situated in a place where their use can be supervised. Could you explain that in light of Mr. Dormer saying on his report on page 4, second paragraph down once again, there are currently 3 CAT-C machines that are very difficult for staff to monitor.
I'm sorry, but I don't believe that to be the case. I believe they're regularly monitored as part of the day-to-day running of the pub. They're in a very, very busy part of the pub where the kitchens, people are in and out of the kitchen all the time. So in terms of supervision, they're not tucked away anywhere that they could possibly be described as being unsupervised. Okay,
staying on page 20, point 3, you said in that sentence, are provided by reputable companies. Could you tell me what that means? Expand on that.
They're currently provided by a company called Games Tech. It's one of the largest machine providing companies in the country currently.
Councillor Allen.
Can we go back to the siting of these machines? Am I correct in believing that the machines have been moved and Stephen Dormer saw those machines in the new position, or were they still in the old position when he came in July?
Those machines have been in the current positions for about a year now.
Did you notify the council that you were, or the licensing department, that you were shifting those machines, bearing in mind the licence would have been originally given on them coming in and looking at where you put them and saying A or nay, you were satisfactory?
It's my belief that if they are always in a well-supervised position, there's no requirement to notify the authorities when we do move machines. Often, a location of the machine really dictates how much it's used by the customers.
I think that question, pass on to Mr. Dormer. Could you give us a clarification on this in terms of what the policy we have? Is it met by this?
I don't believe it is, actually. I believe that I think there was a minor variation for the premises licence December last year, but without looking through that, which I haven't got it to hand, I can't give an accurate description as to what that minor variation was, but I was aware that there was a minor variation carried out last year because, funny enough, the notice is still up on display at the premises. Or when I went there, and I think that was in July. But looking at where these 3 machines are, we as an authority, I believe, would have liked it. We would like the 3 all the machines, any machine that's in the premises, to be in the sight of people who are supervising the bar. To actually rely on that supervision is going to be carried out by someone bringing out food, I don't think is adequate at all.
Any more questions?
No, thank you.
Right, okay. We now move on to closing remarks from each party, working in reverse order. So this is just to give a brief closing remarks on the application and what's been said. So we'll start off with Mr. Dormer.
I believe I've given all the evidence, Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Hart.
So the application is surrounding an application for 2 extra machines within the premises. The DPS in the pub at the moment has worked in a premises with 7 machines in that premises before. She's very well aware of the responsibility she has in terms of meeting licensing objectives and gaming objectives, and the company is multinational. Well, it's not multinational; it's a big company, and we don't mess around with licenses. We take this responsibility very seriously, and I believe, and I'm afraid I have to disagree with the gentleman to my right, that we have that part of the pub is the best supervised part of the pub because of the usage that the managers and also the associates have going in and out of that part of the business. And also the 2 additional machines are well within the sight lines of people working behind the bar, and it's an enhancement to the customer experience when they come to the premises to have two more machines because of the level of trade in the pub currently. So I wouldn't want you to think that we take our responsibility lightly, because we absolutely do not.
Thank you very much. We will now deliberate. So if you'd like to take all your stuff with you, mobile devices, hats, coats and everything, and then we will call you back when we've got our decision. Thank you.